thanks so much, and a warm welcome. I see there's still more people joining the group, and some might be wondering how come the Zoom had started, and we're going to start it earlier, but unfortunately some of the legal team were unable to get onto the Zoom in time because they've been working fast and furious behind the scenes, of course. So we are just so grateful that they're with us this evening. I'm going to share with you a format that I'm going to run this evening, and the format is very simple. First of all, we're going to start with the latest news, developments and updates. Then I'm going to go into 7 questions that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to ask the 7 questions. These are questions that have been asked from people around the globe that either haven't been answered yet, but they've been pre-selected questions. So either they in the developing scenario now that we've got, or new info, maybe they previously asked questions. However, the answers now changed because the circumstances have changed. So I'm going to run through that, and after that we will then have a Q&A. The reason we're doing it that way is after we've given you all an update. I see there are now 573 people on the call. After we've given you an update, what's been going on, you can then feel free to drop off the call if you want, or you can stay on for the 7 pertinent questions and then drop off the call, or stay on for the whole session and we'll just go through all the Q&As. But remember, everything is recorded, so not a problem. You can always go back and watch it, etc. But whatever happens on the RAG videos get recorded, get put out there, are all factual. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first thing. Let's get straight into our exciting news that we've got to share with you this evening. So, and that's really regarding the liquidation process as well as the happenings around that. And this is where I'm going to ask Pierre du Toit, if you can come on. I see that you are there and you're unmuted and everything else. So if you can please just come on and advise from your side, give us the update, give us the news, etc., etc.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, everybody. You guys can all hear me. Sharon, can you hear me?
Perfectly well.
Yeah, so just to set the record straight, I just want to make it clear that I haven't been at the Master's office personally today. We have sent somebody over to hand deliver certain communication on behalf of RAG to the Master. And then what actually happened is that Zen was at the Master's office today together, I think, with Christopher Lewis, and then of course also the employees or the agents of the other liquidators or preferred liquidators. They actually went and hand delivered the hard copies of the nominations. So what I'm telling you now is that what I've been briefed by in my case specifically, Mr. Herman Bester briefed me about what happened, and I'm sure Zen can also then just once I'm done just add whatever he's got, any other news that he may have, being the fact he was there personally today, so perhaps he can add something. So as I understand the situation is, obviously, as we all know, is that the Master's office has been overwhelmed by the influx of thousands and thousands of requisitions. This is obviously, you can imagine that this is not something that happens on a let's even say a monthly or yearly basis. This is a once in a blue moon event. So I think people must just have understanding for the challenges that the Master's office is also faced with at this stage. They're also not running on full strength with regard to personnel due to COVID restrictions, and of course also the holiday situation. However, having said that, I do understand that the assistant master that's been at the office today and who we've been communicating with for the last couple of days have indicated that they understand the urgency of the matter. They have attempted to make contact with the deputy master, who is the person who is actually in a position to make the call to do an urgent appointment on a discretionary basis. Then I'm sorry, I must rectify that. I think they're actually waiting for the master, not the deputy master. Mrs. Akalas, yeah, to just get back on to do that. And at close of business today, they have not received a response from her yet, but she did indicate that she's she left a message and she's waiting for urgent response. So at least I think we've all been drafting letters and sending messages and putting in calls and hand delivering letters to explain the urgency of the matter and to make the master understand that, please, we know you've got these challenges. This is the proposal that we say can make it easier for you. You will recall in previous webinars, we've discussed the situation with regard to the preferred liquidators having an agreement between them, amongst them, that they will request a master to appoint them jointly and not go and nitpick and count each and every nomination, because that can obviously on its own take days. So we being hopeful, and once again, I don't want to make false promises. We're really hopeful that the master, and the signs are good at this stage, that the master may be making a call by tomorrow. Having said that, it's impossible to say it will be tomorrow, but at least we've got no doubt that the master understands the urgency of the matter, and I think the master is really making a concerted effort to move forward with the appointment as soon as possible. We will obviously be following up tomorrow, and we don't want to agitate the master, but we will be in her face for as long as it takes, and we'll keep you guys advised of any developments. Sharon?
Thanks, Pierre. I'd love to hear from Zen now, because you're obviously really on top of it. So give us your 20 cents worth, if not more, please.
Yes, Sharon, to bring you up to speed, we spoke to the assistant master today, and she informed us that the requisition time has lapsed today at 10 o'clock. So what that means is they will accept, or they will look at no more requisitions that came in after 10 o'clock today. So that was the cutoff time for the master to start doing his job by determining who should be the preferred liquidator in this matter, or discretionary liquidator, as Pierre rightly said. We must understand that most of the nominations or requisitions, I'm going to refer to this as nomination because that is what it actually is. The nominations came from all over the country. Obviously, a lot of liquidators sent the requisitions or nominations per email to the master. That caused a huge problem there, because there's only 2 people that can open those emails and print those emails. So you must understand, the liquidators that RAG supported had staff up to 8 people drawing those requisitions in the last 4 or 5 days, and they couldn't even manage. Still, a lot of them are stuck on their emails. So for 2 people at the master to attend to 3 liquidators, nominations going in is an unforgivable and unasked for task. And like Pierre rightly said, this is once in a blue moon. I don't even think the master has ever dealt with this amount or this magnitude in their lives in Cape Town. I'm half sure of that. I've never seen this in 25 years. So I think they are inundated with a lot of nominations sitting there. But to say that the cutoff time was at 10 o'clock this morning means that now they are going to process what is there. And what we did is to speed up that, like Pierre said, we hand-delivered the 3 liquidators nominations there. So we flew down and we took the nominations to the master, put it on the table, and we actually got a stamp, because you have to round up all your nominations, value and number. So each of the liquidators that RAG has put on the preferred panel has got that document with them now to say that that nominations has been lodged per hand by the master. So, like Pierre said, we are waiting for Mrs. Agalas now to make a call, and in her discretion appoint a liquidator. They can always maybe later on add more, 1 or 2 to the process, but that is where we are now. The nominations is in. The cutoff time has been 10 o'clock a.m. South African time this morning, and now we are waiting for the master. We as liquidators, auctioneers, attorneys, advocates cannot do anything anymore now. We're in the master's hands, and so are all the investors. We are all sitting looking at the master's office now, waiting for them to make the appointment so that we can take the next step.
Great, thank you for that. Advocate Toby Bernardi, would you like to add something to what both Pierre and Zen have just said?
Thank you, Sharon. No, I've got nothing further to add. I confirm what they have said. So there's nothing else I can add to that.
Okay, thank you so much. Right, I've got a couple of questions though. So I'm going to head straight into it. I don't want this to be a long video, long Zoom at all. So thank you for the update. RAG will continuously updating everybody. So again, go to the Telegram group, look on our website, everything is posted there, and we'll continue advising as we get the advice. So the reason that I didn't share direct stuff is I want you to hear it from the people who are on the ground actually handling it, from the legal side. So now you've heard where we're at, and there's still a long process ahead. But we've had a couple of questions regarding the process, and that's why I'm really going to ask you all to stay on board. So the first of my 7 questions and comes from somebody in the United States. I've submitted my requisition forms to nomination to investment.co.za, irrelevant of who they nominated, but did not receive any acknowledgement of receipt. And they just want to know whether forms landed on the right desk and that they actually received the forms. And this is a question that is coming over and over. Benita is actually asking that question right now. So is that a question for Zen? Is that a question for who? Pierre, all yours.
Let me perhaps start and then Zen can add to that.
Okay.
I saw that this is a burning issue, and obviously in an ideal world, the liquidators would have acknowledged receipt there. The difficulty, however, is obviously because of the overwhelming volumes that we're talking about. These people can't keep up with answering and acknowledging receipt. So let's just be sort of straightforward and a bit blunt about it. The requisition, the master is not going to accept any further requisitions. So whether your requisition has been received or not is really no longer relevant, because it's closed and the votes must now be counted, and then the master is going to appoint a liquidator or liquidators. But that's not really, it's obviously each one had a vote, and you would like to make use of the opportunity and to know that your vote was actually, your vote was actually counted. But it's now academic of nature of going forward. I think the important thing here from now onwards is in the process is that the next step will be for investors to actually submit claim documents. Now that's the important document that you obviously need to receive acknowledgement from the liquidator that's appointed in due course. And that's the thing, that obviously there will be a formal process whereby you will receive an acknowledgement. Otherwise, you won't have any guarantee that your formal claim will actually be proved at a meeting of creditors. But that the liquidators, once appointed, will definitely put a proper system in place where, when they receive the claim documents, there will be a process where they definitely will acknowledge receipt and also advise you if there's anything wrong with the claim document. But that's something that they will deal with, and I'm sure that basically what I'm saying is the fact that you have not received an acknowledgement for your requisition of your nomination is now of academic nature. Going forward, the important thing is going to be to get an acknowledgement for your claim document that you will have to submit in due course. We have dealt with this issue of the difference between a nomination form and the actual claim form, that the claim form is a formal form with all supporting documentation, a lot more detailed, etc. And that's going to be dealt with at the later stage at the meeting of creditors. I don't think it's necessary for us to go into any detail with regard to that at this stage. But yeah, basically that's my part. Zen, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, Pierre, what the liquidators usually do in a case like this is they establish a creditors list that they put up on their website, usually after they've been appointed, so that creditors can come into contact with that liquidator or liquidators, but usually one liquidator will handle that admin. So there's a list posted, and then you can add your name to that list. It's a lengthy process, but remember, we're only going to prove those claims on the first meeting of creditors. So it will take a lot of time before that actually happens. And people don't have to worry. Like Pierre said, this was only a nomination. You nominated a liquidator. It's got absolutely nothing to do with your claim whatsoever, what you've done and in the nomination system and the nomination that you've put forward. So once the appointment is made, the liquidator will advise everybody, and I think RAG will advise everybody and put out that email address, and then you can come into contact with that liquidator. He will put you on the creditors list and keep you updated what is going on as far as the estate is concerned. And as the time arrives to go to the meeting, he will then send out the claim forms to you and advise you how to fill in those claim forms until he's happy that you've proved your claim and he's vetted you that you are a legitimate creditor of the estate. So people mustn't start worrying because the nomination didn't go in or he didn't get a confirmation that his nomination was received. Once you start putting in your claim and you don't get a response back, that is when you start worrying about getting a response from the liquidator.
Okay, super.
Sharon?
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So that answers that question. Petronella Janssen van Rensburg had the same question, but then she added in that how will they pay us? Will it be into my bank account or how will that work? So I know this is a process we're hoping will happen in 6 weeks, but we all know it's not going to happen any time soon. But when it finally happens on a global scale, because we've got international visitors on this call as well, are they going to request bank accounts? I mean, like, how does something on a BTC, Bitcoin scale get paid back?
I think Pierre should answer that, and maybe also Mr. Bernardi should answer that one.
Yeah, Sharon, you will recall that we also had this discussion before, and Christopher, we actually need one of the liquidators to actually explain that in more detail. But the fact of the matter is that it's a South African insolvency process. It's a South African company. So the assets are going to come back to South Africa. It's going to be converted into rands. And then we had the discussion before whether whether it will be possible for the liquidator to say, all right, we can approach the court, because most definitely it will not be, it's not something that has happened before, and there's definitely no provisions in the insolvency law to provide for a dividend to be paid to a creditor in anything else than South African currency. We had the discussion and said that it's an interesting point, and it may be something that we can have a look at when nearer to the time. It's not priority at this stage to really spend a lot of time and energy on that. But most definitely going further down the line when it's time for liquidation and distribution account, and once we've recovered some funds, that's something that one can investigate and get a proper opinion on. I also explained in the previous webinar that the investors must just please remember that I know the investment was Bitcoin based, but the fact of the matter is that you purchased a Bitcoin and then you transfer the ownership of that Bitcoin to MTI. So you're no longer the owner of a Bitcoin or a portion or a part of a Bitcoin. The fact of the matter is that Bitcoin now is it was the property of MTI, and who knows what MTI did with that. I think the forensic guys already made a big effort to trace that, and they actually do know where some of that Bitcoin or a lot of that Bitcoin is currently held, but that's not in the name of the MTI wallet. It's sitting in another entity's wallet, and that must obviously be recovered. Just getting back to the point, the investor is not the owner of any Bitcoin at this stage. He or she may have a claim relevant to a wallet that's sitting somewhere in a third party's name, but that's going to be recovered and it's going to come back as an asset of MTI, a claim that gets converted back into money. So basically, unless we can come up with a opinion where somebody can advise us that it's possible and there's merits in approaching the courts to request for a payment to be converted and actually to be made into Bitcoin. But you must also remember, because whatever's going to happen is what the investor is going to receive is going to be calculated based on a pro rata basis of what's available and what's the total amount of all the claims, and that's going to be the portion that you will receive. And so you're going to sit with a lot of assets that you've recovered. You're going to work out what percentage must each investor get back, and then you must pay him out. So you're sitting with a lot of whether it's Bitcoin that the liquidators sit with, or whether it's South African rand, they must then pay out this investor. So you're going to still get, you're going to end up with the same value, whether it's going to be in rand or whether it's going to be in Bitcoin. You're not going to be better off than the person that actually gets the money in rand. That's just how, theoretically speaking, if it's possible to actually pay somebody in Bitcoin, which, as we said here, has not been definitely not been investigated or happened in the past in South Africa.
I think the biggest concern is people who live in the United States, Jamaica, Europe. They're hearing that they're getting rand, and our rand, obviously, rate of exchange to them is quite weak. So now they're obviously presuming that they are losing a whole lot more money on top of it, but it's not the case, because they will get back the value of that back into their currency. Am I correct?
Yeah, Sharon, if I can come on there, I deal with a lot of import-exports into Mozambique. And I also deal with imports into South Africa. Now, any foreign money that enters our system has to be cleared by the Reserve Bank. Doesn't matter what. If it goes through a commercial bank, it has to be cleared through the Reserve Bank. That is all got to do with terrorism and all the ficas and all that problems that we have in the world these days, to make sure that it comes from a reliable source. So my opinion, and I don't say this is right, but out of my experience, my opinion will be is they will have to change this back into rand to get it back into the system to deal with it. And what will have to happen is they will have to go to the Reserve Bank and say to the Reserve Bank, on this virtual money or asset is sitting there, we're going to have to sell that at a certain point. And it all becomes a problem, because when do you sell it that it doesn't become a loss to the investors? At what point? If it turns around and go down, you've got a problem. If it keeps on climbing the value, you've got a problem. But at some stage, it will have to sell it and go to the Reserve Bank and say, this foreign currency is entering our monetary system into South Africa. It is dollars. At some point in future, we would want to send out this monetary dollars that came in, maybe in another currency, or we're going to send it out in dollars to the investors. So I think that is where the liquidators will look at it, that they will have to bring the money in through the Reserve Bank, declare that money that they are selling the Bitcoin for, and hold that money. At some point, they're going to have to pay that money out to investors internationally. And then the Reserve Bank know that money entered the country and the money will leave the country again. So that's where I'm thinking that will happen. That's how we handle the exports and imports in South Africa. So I don't know, maybe Toby can also collude on this a little bit, but I think that's how this will play out in the end on the Bitcoin side.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Zen. I agree with you. We are, and I must emphasize this, I think the first step must now be for us to recover as much as possible. The process, how we're going to deal with that money once we received it or recovered it, we will have to find a way in order to make sure that the right process is followed, and we will have to work close with the Reserve Bank of South Africa in order to do that. I foresee that we will have to approach a court maybe to assist us in getting that done. So for me, at this moment in time, let's wait with that process and determine the strategy that we're going to follow once we are in a process to do so. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Okay, that's perfect. The next question I have, and it's more of a statement, but there is a question to it. What's South African government's posture and support against this international scale fraud? MTI investors abroad have transferred legitimate Bitcoin, and transactions should be traceable to the very last cent. Who's craving to answer my question? Is the money 100% traceable?
I think that was a question for Vaughan Victor to answer. I don't think any of the panel can answer that with certainty, and we'll open ourselves to a can of worms if we do that. The man that should answer that question is Vaughan Victor. We don't deal with that. He's the cyber expert. He deals with us every single day, the wallets and the passwords and everything. So I can't let myself out on this.
Then I love your question. I mean, I love your answer, because that shows you that we only give accurate information out here. So that's perfect. Yeah. So we will come back to that question on another Zoom call. We're not going to just toss it to one side and leave it. We'll certainly get back to and get the answer. This is a very specific question, and I know you might say that Vaughan will have to answer this going forward as well. But both legal experts in recent videos mentioned that they were involved in investigating other scams, including the Btc Global Scam, where 80 million of investors' funds were lost and never recovered. As far as I am aware, this person says, apparently some of the current MTI leadership were involved with the Btc Global Scam as well. However, up to date, no one has been prosecuted as far as I'm aware. This seems to be an abject failure on the part of the authorities in South Africa, including the FCA and police. Had this case been handled better and the people prosecuted, we might not be in this position with MTI. On a positive note,
can I just? I did handle that question. I did handle that question earlier. I did handle it, and I just want to. I want to hand this over to Advocate Toby Bernardi, because the person who fielded that question last time was Advocate Hendrik van Staden. And what I would suggest, because that was as a result of what he said, so what I would suggest is to hand this over to Advocate Toby Bernardi. And I wanted, because what that person said in that question was, it was Hendrik van Staden and Vaughan Victor's fault. And I said, there are two sides to this. There is a criminal side, and there is a legal, and there is a normal civilian side. And the one deals with the assets, which is what they were dealing with. And the criminal side is the side that should convict these people. But I'd like Advocate Bernardi, do you understand what the implication there was, Advocate? Your microphone's not on, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Sorry for that. If I understand the question correctly, the question is whether criminal procedures should be followed, or whether we should only concentrate on the civil side of this, or the liquidation side of this. My suggestion would be, and I think Pierre would also confirm that, and we've mentioned this a few times already. We must now plan the strategy in order to proceed with the administration of this company in liquidation. As Pierre has suggested before, our Companies Act and our Insolvency Act makes provision for inquiries to be held, where we will gain information as to what the process was and what has happened since the company was incorporated about a year ago. So we will use the 417, 418 inquiry in order to gain as much information as possible. Our Companies Act also makes provision for charges to be laid once we have enough information and which we can provide to the investigating the Hawks or the police in order to start proceedings in terms of our Companies Act. But the first thing that must now happen is we will plan the strategy in terms of which a 417, 418 inquiry will take place rather sooner than later, in order for us to get the information to see what happened and who were involved in this scam and what happened and what must be done about that.
Okay, thank you for
that. Sharon, can I just come in here? I am currently involved with BTC Global's investigation, currently as it stands now, with Hendrik van Staden. I am inside there at the moment. I can't divulge anything. It's too soon. But what the people must realize is, if a scam like this goes down, the initial reaction is very, very, very important for the criminal case to follow. Your handling of the information and your grabbing of laptops and IT and telephones and everything plays a crucial role in the apprehension of the criminals in a criminal case. So if you do that whole process wrong, for argument's sake, just if you grab a laptop, it must go in a Faraday bag. The same with a telephone, it must go in a Faraday bag and it must be loaded off, and there must be all kinds of procedures to follow there. And in the BTC Global case, and also in the other cases that I know that there was no criminal prosecution, there is because the evidence in the beginning was not collected right, and then it fells the whole. You cannot grab somebody's cell phone and then hold him to account when a third party has handled that cell phone, because he will just say it's not his information on the cell phone or on the laptop. So in those cases, the people handled the whole process wrong, and that is why we got the right people on this investigation team, so that when these things are grabbed, and I'm not going to elaborate on that too much, it's done in the right way that it will stick in a criminal court. And that is why BTC Global and some of the other schemes have got away, because the case was handled wrong in the beginning and the evidence was not accessible or amicable in court. So that is where that went all wrong. So now to prove that on the backlog now is going to be very difficult. As I am in that investigations, I know what went wrong there. I cannot allude and elaborate on that anymore, but I can tell you that is where it went wrong.
Well, can I just quickly add something to that? I think it's also important just to keep in mind that the liquidation process focuses on a civil litigation level, focusing on recovering of assets, focusing on instituting claims and to recover dispositions of assets. The criminal side is not purely within the ambit of the responsibilities of the liquidators. Of course, they do assist and they do prompt and they do follow up with the prosecuting authority, because it's important for creditors to know that these people are also going to pay, not just with losing whatever they gained, but also paying on a criminal prosecution level for what they've done. And of course, there's also the other benefit of having an let's call it active and a kind of aggressive prosecution, is that it also put some pressure on the culprits to actually come forward and to say, all right, you know, we want to come clean. Here's the assets, or here's, I can help you by explaining whatever I've done with the Bitcoin, etc. So there is a bonus and there is interaction between the two. But just keep in mind, the liquidator's responsibility and their main function is not to see that these people get prosecuted. You've got a criminal justice system, you've got the whole state resources that must go after that and must do that. So people must just please keep in mind that it's not the liquidator's job to see, and they don't have the power to do that either. They can prompt and they can feed evidence and information to the police, but that's not the liquidator's responsibility to see that there's a successful prosecution based on the fraud and the theft that occurred.
Okay, super. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. I've had a question by Peter Wallace saying, and I have the answer to this because I spoke to Hendrik just before getting on the call and he gave me the answer, which I will read out. But Peter is asking, some are saying, I presume some people are saying that because this is a SAPS case, so for people internationally, that's a South African Police Services case, the Hawks are not involved, and because there's no fraud cases that have been made abroad against MTI, so the FBI is not involved. Is this true? So I'm just going to give it to you very factually. The Hawks are involved and the FBI is involved. And that is the answer.
Yep, I can concur with that because I have similar information. Absolutely.
So I've had that direct from
Hendrik.
And yeah, I have more information that I'm not allowed to divulge because it's part of the case. And when we can't divulge it, it can damage the case, which means we can't get my Bitcoin back, and I want my Bitcoin back. We can't get your Bitcoin back. So please understand that we only give the factual information in as much as we can. The last question, like I've smiled when I read it, but what really happened to Johan? Like, we can all guess, we can all speculate, we can all say that, you know, we just hope that something terrible has not happened to him. You know, we pray that he is safe should anything have gone terribly wrong. But nobody's come forward. People are asking, has MTI management come forward, or the board of MTI? I mean, nobody's come forward. We've given them ample opportunity and said, please come forward so we can continue, you know, come back and let's sort this out, and it can be sorted out in a couple of weeks. But nobody has come back. So, you know, that's where we are. No, we don't know where Johan is. No, we haven't had confirmation. We're getting lots of leads, but those lots of leads are leading us all over the show. So until we have confirmation from a legal team and our legal team, then we will be able to pass that information on. Until then, we cannot even have that discussion. Okay.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes,
I just want to go back to a question which was asked, and just to get clarity on that, because in the previous session when I was answering questions, I still didn't have the full information. And just back to you, Zen, on that. When I spoke to certain of our legal team this morning, we didn't have the information that the master has actually said that no more forms need to be put in. And I was still under the impression that we need to get the forms in case he moves the date forward. But you're saying now categorically that we can tell the people that it's too late to submit their forms because the master has closed that up. I just want to make that very clear, because what I said earlier and what you have just informed us is contrary. So if you could just clarify that point so that we all know exactly what the situation is with the forms that need to be submitted.
I did clarify it just now before when you went for your drink or whatever, but the master did say today that 10 o'clock a.m. South African time was the cutoff time. They would now look at the nomination forms. You can send them there, but they're not going to look. They're just going to disregard the forms that's going to come in now, either by email or by hand delivered. They're going to disregard them. What was there this morning, 10 o'clock, that is what they will take into consideration on making the appointment.
And just following on, I see here, and I just want to ask you as an expert as well, that the people are saying, and I think we just need to tell people that whether your form has been confirmed, received, has been received, has not been received, is still not there, might still get there, doesn't make a difference. In the end, you will get an opportunity to submit your claim. And that's the next step. Is that correct?
Yeah, Pierre also spoke about that lengthily. We then again said that the nomination form is just an academic process to get the liquidator appointed. The claims will be dealt with later on. You'll go onto a creditors list at the liquidator. So once the liquidator is appointed, everybody will know who that liquidator is that's handling that administration. And that is the time that you should get onto the list, not lodge your claim yet. There's a special form that they will send you that you have to complete. And a commissioner has to sign that form off, that it's before they will accept it. So there's a whole process in filling in that claim form. So they will put you on the creditors list, and then you'll get the opportunity to contact that liquidator, and he will dispatch the claim form to you then and help you to fill it in the right way, get it commissioned in back, and he will tell you when your claim form does not prescribe to how it should be filled in. So he will come back to you then and say, sir, this is not right, you have to change this, fill it in again, commission it again. So now the nominations are done. Claim forms will become later on, but you're first going to go after this step. The master appoints now, you'll contact the liquidator and you'll go onto that creditors list so that he can communicate with you the whole time and tell you, this is the next step, this is the next step. Once you're on the creditors list, you'll know exactly what the process is. You'll follow it step by step with the liquidator through the process.
Thank you, sir. It's back to you, Sharon. It's all yours. Sound, Sharon.
If you haven't got your form filled out, not a problem. We still have to get to the claim process. It doesn't mean you are eliminated from the claim. The forms are purely to get the liquidator, nominated, nothing else. So anybody can still claim. It doesn't matter if you've sent in a form or not, because that's being asked over and over and over. So that's the end of the 7 questions. So those of you who want to drop off, there's 647 participants right now. You can drop off, otherwise you can stay on and we'll go through a couple of questions. And there's some interesting questions that have come up because it has my name on.
Pierre, Advocate Pierre Dutoit has got an appointment he needs to go to. So unless there's something very specific for him, I would like to, just say thank you very much, sir, for attending this tonight. I know it's been very difficult for you to arrange to attend tonight, but thank you for that.
Only a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Is there anybody else on the panel that needs to move at this stage? Pierre, Pierre, do you want to just have a last word? And anybody else who needs to do something else? I know Zen has also had a terribly long day, a long weekend, to be honest. Hardly any sleep and working with thousands and thousands of forms to get things out. Would you like to say a last word, Sir Pierre Dutoit?
Thank you, Chris. Just to say that we will obviously follow up tomorrow with the master and to find out what's going on. And I'm sure Zen will do the same from his side. And we'll be in contact with the RAG management just to keep them up to date with the latest developments.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Can I be excused now?
Yes. Good night, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good night. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Zen, are you good to sit a while or
no, I can still go. Chris, it's okay.
Okay. Advocate Bernardi?
Thank you, Chris. I'm fine.
Okay. All right, Carol, Sharon, you can go for it. Sorry, Carol. Been a long day.
So that's the end. Please feel free. Carolyn said, please don't drag this meeting out. Drop off the call. We're not insulted. You don't have to listen to any other further questions, or you can catch up because it always gets posted. How are the liquidator costs apportioned? And I know that some of the stuff we've covered in the past, but what's happened over the past week is so many people have now heard about the RAG committee, us all being investors ourselves, and that these Zooms are taking place. So they haven't, had all the information. So these are now questions that might have come up in the past, but that people are now wanting answered. So who's going to handle this for me?
I think let Toby go first, and then I'll add if I think there's anything to add on that.
Okay.
Sorry, Sharon, could you just repeat that question? Is the question, what will be the function of the auctioneers in this process?
Let me go back. Sorry, I'm paging through all these questions. There's so many. The actual, let me just go back.
I've got it. It's the costs. People just want to know, where's the cost going to come from? Where is the cost? How is this going to be paid for? How will that affect the pot? And then do they have to pay 2 or 3 liquidators, or how does that structure for the payment work? Did I get it, Sharon? Did I get it right?
Yeah, basically that's perfect.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Chris. Well, it's simple. The cost of the winding up process is paid from the proceeds of whatever is recovered in the estate of MTI. So the winding up, I foresee that in this instance, we're going to make use of someone like Zen, who's got all the knowledge, all the skills to assist us, who's got the know-how in order to make sure that between the liquidators, the legal representatives, and the auctioneers, as much as possible is recovered. And the auctioneers, the legal work that must be done, all will be paid from the first proceeds, and subsequent thereto, whatever is left will be used in order to pay a dividend to creditors.
I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. I think people will want to know what will be the fees that the liquidators will charge. I'll quickly run that down step by step. Monies found in bank accounts, it will incur a 1% costing. With other words, they will take a 1% commission, monies found inside bank accounts. On immovable properties, people with selling a house, selling a building, selling anything that's immovable that carries a title deed, they will take 3%. Any immovable properties, the people's furniture, very expensive cars, the yacht, the airplanes, everything will incur a 10% cost that the liquidator is entitled to. Monies that they have to work for. If they have to go and find your Bitcoin, locate your wallets, everything, they're entitled to 10% of that as well. Other fees that a liquidator will incur will be, for argument's sake, he will brief an attorney or a counsel like Toby to go and do a 417, 418 inquiry. That is a cost to the estate, but they can only pay that out if they have the money, or they do that at own risk. With other words, if they do a 417 and a 418 inquiry, and there comes nothing out of the inquiries, or no money is earned in the estate, the liquidator will have to bear that cost. That is actually put out there by the law, and those costs are put out. Let me say to you, the commissions are put out there, so the liquidator actually does his work because he works at commission. So the more money he earns, the more commission he earns, and that's a good system, because that means he will really work hard for your investors to get the money back. But other costs that could be incurred, the auctioneer has to be paid. I will have to run up and down, look for assets. I will have to go and seize assets with 69(3)s. I'll have to do Rule 19's preservation orders in some cases, where we get provisional orders in third parties that we're going to sequestrate or liquidate. So all those costs will be paid out of the estate, and the liquidators will pay it out of the estate. But if they have no money in the estate, or they get no money in the estate, this will be bad luck for all the people that services inside the estate. So it's vital that the liquidator finds your money. Otherwise, he gets nothing, I get nothing, nobody gets nothing. So that is a very, very, very good motivation for us to work our backsides off. Sorry for the word, but that's true.
Okay, perfect. Is there any chance to save MTI as a company and continue on with new management?
I think Toby should answer that, but the only thing there will be a business practitioner, business rescue practitioner that can do that in this case. But I don't think that's viable. Toby will have to answer that one.
Yeah, I agree with Zen. There's a possibility in our company law that business rescue proceedings could be utilized in order to keep the company going. But I can't think or imagine that in this instance that will happen. Yeah, we will have maybe if Mr. Johan Steinberg comes to the fore and say, listen, this is where the money is. Well, we can do something in order to take the company out of liquidation, but I can't see at this moment that happening. So
thank you for that. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm just going through the questions. So the next one is, good evening. Does anyone know where Johan's wife and daughter and anyone is, and have they had contact with them?
I don't
think that's got bearing on this case. That's got nothing to do with us.
Okay. And are we still aware of where the rest of the MTI directors are, or they also disappearing? Ask Michael Tyso.
I will look in my crystal ball tonight.
Advocate Bernardi, you go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, I think once the liquidators are appointed, we must start then looking for those people, and any information that can assist us in finding those people, we will appreciate. So, if anybody has any information regarding where they found themselves, then they must inform us of that.
Perfect, thank you. Unati Kowali, she wants to thank us all for our hard work you are doing for us. This has been especially hard and a learning process, and she's in Bloemfontein, so you are more than welcome. It's nice to get a thank you, you know, all the sleep we have not had and what goes on behind the scenes, so that's great, so thank you for that. Will we get a form to request our money? We've handled that, but wait for that. That's going to come later. We're not on the claiming forms yet. And somebody's asking where on the website is the claim form. We certainly have not got to that process yet. And that's just been asked, which is why I'm answering it. We haven't got there yet. So as soon as we get there, we'll be able to find out. The exact process. We'll all be told, and we'll all share that with you, so that's not a problem. Is it natural for us all to want to know that these criminals will pay for. I think they mean like, it is natural that we just want to know that the criminals are going to get what's due to them. So that's not really a question. Okay.
Can I just fill in a little bit on that? We will do everything in our power to talk to the authorities to get a concentrated direction on following these people, so that we don't have a splintered group action. So, and we will put up links for people to be able to direct their information in and to participate with the right people. We don't want the whole world going to little police stations everywhere and trying to make start a criminal investigation or anything like that, because that's not going to work. The good information is going to get lost. It's much better if it's centralized and sent to the right place. And we have scheduled, I have scheduled some discussions with senior people in the police to set up a process so that we can try and work with them to set up a process where all of this can be focused. And that way everybody can work together. So if other things like Interpol and the FBI and so on, we will ask them to say, all right, if you're in which domain, where do you go? That's why we had the discussion with the solicitors in America as well, is to focus in, have focus points and nodes all over the world, because we're talking to other solicitor firms in different countries to join us now and hold up their hand and say, look, we will follow what's going on in this whole investigation and with the liquidators, and we'll keep ourselves informed, and we'll be a point for you to come to and ask what's going on, so that you can get it in your own language and know what the implications within your country is as far as this law is concerned, and how you have to work with the South African government as far as that's concerned. So we intend this time, Hendrik and Vaughan have also said that they will make absolutely sure that this information gets to the right people. And that way we can all work together and demand that something happens. Because if we don't, it just splinters and these guys get away with it again.
Great. So there's a question that's come up from a number of people, and I'm just trying to catch up. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling. Fiona Henzy, Sharon, are you directly under Sherry Marks? Please answer. So I don't know what the relevance of that is. Sherry Marks has signed up, I don't know how many people. I know she has got thousands of people in her team. I only signed up this year, last year, 2020, in April. Yes, I did sign up with Sherry Marks. And when I got zero assistance, zero help, I actually withdrew the money and I signed up under a new sponsor. So am I currently now, during my claim of my Bitcoin, under Sherry? No, I'm under somebody else based in, a different team. And yeah, so I hope that answers your question. I know
So
she
can I ask you, Sharon, this is very important for listeners to hear. And this is a direct question, okay? This is one of these, I want you to hold up your hand and say, do you work for MTI or have any direct relationships with the management of MTI?
Okay, I have never even met any of them, and I'm talking about Sherry Marks, her husband, the brothers apparently are all in it, the sisters, the mother. I've never met them face to face, had a cup of coffee with them or anything. I signed up with Sherry because of all her posts on Facebook, and I phoned up one day and I signed up with her. But then when I realized I was getting this much assistance, I am a network marketer, I know how this business works, I withdrew and I put my money elsewhere.
Yeah, but you only signed up as an investor. The only time you've ever signed up is as an investor. Is that not true?
I've only ever signed up as an investor. I have never had anything to do with MTI as a holding company, as management, as a board of directors, or nothing. I'm an investor like everybody else on this.
Okay, and are you aware that there is anybody within the RAG group? Do you think there is anybody within the RAG group who is anything more than an investor as far as MTI is concerned?
Absolutely not. We've all had to go through a thorough procedure, checks, ticks, etc. We raised our hands to say we want to help 280,000 people around the globe get their money back. So we were all like, it's irrelevant if you signed up with Tom, Dick, or Harry, like, let's get everybody's money back. And none of the RAG people, RAG team members any of the, are related to MTI support, have worked for MTI, or even on MTI management. All of us are individual MTI investors. Some of us have put in a little bit of Bitcoin, some of us have put in a lot of Bitcoin. But we are all investors, like every single person on this call.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Chris?
Yes, thank you very much for that.
Pleasure.
Backwards, forwards, and totally go.
Good, no problem, as long as everybody has the answer, because I see, and I've gone out now, but Fiona asked, Annie Steele asked, Anonymous asked, sorry, Anonymous, I cannot greet you by your name because you put Anonymous on as your name. Johan Bachterman, I probably pronounced that wrong. You also asked, so clearly it's a question, but it does come with answer this because it's about trust according to the September MTI data leak. So there was MTI data that was leaked, and obviously on the form, it says that I signed up with Sherry, but if you look down somewhere else or further, you'll see who my actual sponsor is. And I won't announce him, it's a male, on this call because I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
Good. Instead, we're ending the call at past, so there's 2 minutes to go. Is there anything else that Advocate Toby you'd like to add, and then we can slowly close off?
Thank you, Sharon. I think what must happen, and I suggested that to Pierre during the course of the last few days, that we have a planning meeting where we discuss the further conduct in this matter. I think that must happen during the course of this week still, in order to decide what must happen next, when will it happen, what is important to happen as soon as possible, and then maybe we should, once we have done that, then we should communicate with everyone in order to keep everybody up to date as to what will happen next and when will it happen and what the process is.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your time, not only tonight, but on every other phone call. We really
amazing. Absolutely
Thank
amazing.
you.
Good. Then you're up.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Toby. There's steps to be taken. Any liquidation has got steps. We in the step now where the master has to make the appointment, and we're waiting for him. He's the regulatory body on insolvencies. So we're waiting for him, and once he's made the appointment, we'll know what to do from there on and how we're going to go about it. And Toby said that's exactly, we have to plan and do this properly.
100%. And thank you again for all your input. You're like a dog in a butcher shop, and we love that about you. And that's why we know we're in the right hands. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, Sharon.
Good. Stefan. Are you still there, Stefan? In the meantime, we'll have you, Chris. What are your last words in the last 1 minute that we've got?
I just want to say thank you very much for the liquidators and the Advocate Toby Bernardi and Zen and Christopher and all the people who put in so much hard work, amazing amount of work, and the fact that they've been consulting with us and talking with us and really putting time into getting this thing, getting answers to the people, and they're all very senior people in their thing. I think if you actually knew how much what Zen's experience is, 22 years Zen, is that right, doing auction work, auctioneer?
25.
25 years. I mean, we've got an amazing team. And if you know what people like Advocate Van Staden and Victor and, all of them, every single one of them, we'll put up the bios of these people, but they're solid people, all of them. Really, really good people who've been thing. And Sharon, I must say, really thank you, tremendous amount of thank you for all your hard work that you've put in. And I know it's been under extremely difficult circumstances. You've put in a Herculean task and been an absolute hero in all of this. Well done, and thank you for that.
Pleasure. Okay, Stefan's not there. He's now gone on mute. He's back. Stefan, what have you got to say?
I think Stefan's having sound problems.
I think he's battling with his internet, but that's okay. I know he'd probably just thank you all. I know he's been fast and furiously typing some answers, and that's what it's like when I run the meeting. I also have all these questions and answers, and I'm trying to run through them, and it's so difficult to obviously get to everybody's. But don't forget, you can always go to our website. Don't forget, we're going to post consistently, and you won't stop hearing from us, because we're here to fight as MTI investors for what is right. So thank you so much, Zen, Advocate Turby. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the call now. Have a blessed evening or blessed day wherever you are around the world, and we'll chat to you again. Thank you so much.